Russell Westbrook has often been thought of as one of the most polarizing players of his era. Many people love him, and as many people, or if not more people, hate him. He's been criticized for being selfish, having poor shot selection, chucking up three-pointers when he's not even a good three-point shooter at all. And while these are all valid points, Westbrook is currently putting all his haters away and proving them wrong this season. After the Chris Paul for Russell Westbrook trade was completed, many thought that the Rockets were actually at the losing end of the deal because Westbrook and Harden would not be able to coexist. Both have extremely historically high usage rates, okay? So they were like, who's going to share the ball? How are they going to work together if both need the ball to be effective? And look, in the beginning of the season, it looked like they were both going to really struggle playing with each other. Westbrook or Harden, depending on who had the ball, would either spot up at the corners or they would just stand way at the half-court line while the other just dribbled the shot clock out and put up a bad shot. And it seemed like the critics were correct. Westbrook was having an extremely hard time adjusting to Harden's style of play because he wasn't really a spot-up shooter. Sure, there were those highlights where you saw that he had some nice cuts to the basket and set a nice screen and rolled hard to the basket, but those were very few and far between. Westbrook was struggling immensely, only shooting about 43-42% from the field and an abysmal 24% from the three-point line. He even struggled at the free throw line early on in the season, shooting about 72%. And it was here where Westbrook was getting some of the biggest hate he had ever received in his career. Many were saying that Westbrook is a player that no one can adjust to. No one can adjust to Westbrook's style of play because he is so stubborn and hard-headed. He keeps taking those deep threes when everyone knows that he is likely not going to make them. People were beginning to say that the Rockets had lost the trade for CP3, CP3 being a 34-year-old point guard while Westbrook was still in the prime of his career. People were saying that the Rockets lost this trade at that time, but come the new year and something just clicked. A fire lit within Westbrook and he has been tearing the league up ever since. In the month of January alone, Westbrook put up superstar numbers, averaging 32.5 points, 8.3 rebounds, and 8.2 assists, giving us a reminiscent flashback of his 2016-17 MVP season. However, there was one big difference, and it was that Westbrook's field goal percentage was off the charts. He shot 52.2% from the field, and while he only shot 25% from the line, he only attempted 24 three-pointers that month, averaging to about 2 3-pointers per game, which is something everyone liked to see. Westbrook focused on what he did best, driving to the rim and throwing down a thunderous jam or an acrobatic layup, or even kicking it out to his shooter or lobbing it up to Clint Capella, who was still on the team at the time. On top of this, all of that attacking to the basket resulted in a lot of free throw attempts for Westbrook, averaging 7.5 on the month. He shot them at a 76.5% clip, which is above average. And to round it all out, Westbrook put the same intensity on the defensive end as the offensive end, averaging about 2.1 steals that month. And Westbrook's stats, unlike what most people say, have not been empty stats. The Rockets are currently 7-3 in their last 10 games, and in fact they just won a big game against the very big Los Angeles Lakers, where the Rockets were extremely undersized and no one thought that they were going to win. Westbrook actually spearheaded the attack, putting up 41 points, 8 rebounds, and 5 assists. He really helped James Harden that night, who struggled, just putting up 14 points. In my opinion, I think January was the most important month in Westbrook's Rocket career. He was able to prove that the Rockets were going to be fine without Harden because Harden had struggled with injury and he was in a terrible shooting slump in January. He put up 28 points, 8 rebounds, and 6.5 assists, yes, but he only shot 35.5% from the field overall and 27% from the three-point line. Westbrook was the main guy in January, and he was able to lead the Rockets to wins, even when Harden was nursing injury and struggling from the field. It proved that Harden could rest in the regular season, knowing that he has a guy like Westbrook to have his back. I think that month of January really eased Rockets fans' minds, given that they knew they had an option behind James Harden in case something happened to him or if he was having an off night. In my opinion, Westbrook's averages of 26 points, 8 rebounds, and 7.3 assists on the season has actually crushed expectations of many people. A lot thought that he was only going to average 22, 21 points per game while shooting only 40% from the field, but he's actually shooting a career high from the field as well at about 46% while attempting his lowest three-point total since the 2017-18 season when he was still with the Thunder. I think what he's also proven to a lot of people is that he's not that low IQ player that many see him to be. Sure, he may be turning the ball over at still 4 per game, but he's really worked on his shot selection and he's identified that he's not the best 3-point shooter in the league, which is something that we wouldn't have seen maybe 2 or 3 years earlier. Westbrook is finally maturing and recognizing that he's not the first option in Houston anymore, but he's gonna do his best to be that second option and even first option when Houston needs him to be. And looking at the Rockets post-trade deadline, I think that they'll rely on Westbrook now more than ever. They need his defensive tenacity and they need his rebounding tenacity as well, given that they just lost their defensive anchor. Expect Westbrook to crash the boards with PJ Tucker and Robert Covington much more often because those two together cannot out-rebound some of the best bigs in our league, such as Anthony Davis, Joel Embiid, Jokic, Antetokounmpo. There's no way they're out-rebounding them on their own, so Westbrook will definitely need to help them on the boards, and he'll be more than willing to. And let me end the video with this statement. The Russell Westbrook of old, probably 3 to 4 years ago, definitely would not have worked with this Houston team because of his alpha mindset. Westbrook was too stubborn and hard-headed to recognize his own mistakes, and he would have kept pounding the ball and probably dribbling out the shot clock and putting up long threes because he thought that he could do that. But finally, Westbrook at 31 years old has recognized his role on the team as that secondary playmaker, as that beta. Not in a negative context though. He's that beta dog, that strong second option that any team needs. He's that second option who could easily be the first option for another team, which is a luxury that the Rockets have. This evolution in mindset is showing that Westbrook is willing to do whatever it takes to win a championship. He has recognized the spots that he is most effective in and attacking them at the highest rate. He's no longer taking those long 3-pointers, or he's minimizing those long 3-pointers. He may take some here and there, but it's very few and far between. Westbrook is evolving from that try to do it all guy, do too much guy, to the guy who has recognized his role. He's finally evolving into that fiery, athletic, sometimes out of control player to a more precise, a more refined, a more mentally strong Russell Westbrook who knows how to use his athleticism on the court. And if Westbrook continues to play at this rate, expect the Rockets to make some noise in the playoffs and surprise a lot of people who thought they weren't going to go far.